The papers hit the kitchen counter with a crisp sound that cut through the silence like a blade. Divorce papers. On the same day my wife had just gotten the biggest promotion of her career. I stared at the documents while she stood there, arms crossed, looking like she'd just won the lottery. Which, in a way, she had. Vice President of Operations at her company. 6-figure salary. Stock options. The whole package. I don't need you anymore, she said, her voice steady and matter-of-fact. I can take care of myself now. 7 years of marriage. 7 years of me working overtime at the manufacturing plant, covering the mortgage while she climbed the corporate ladder. 7 years of supporting her through late nights, weekend conferences, and every step of her career advancement. And this was my reward. I picked up the pen she'd placed next to the papers. She expected drama. She expected me to beg, to argue, to make a scene. Instead, I read through the documents quickly. Standard no-fault divorce. She was keeping the house since her name was on the mortgage. I was keeping my truck and my savings account. Clean split. I signed every page without saying a word. That's it, she asked, clearly caught off guard. You're not going to fight this? I looked up at her, this woman I'd loved for nearly a decade, and felt something close completely inside me. What's there to fight? You've made your choice. I thought you'd at least want to talk about it. You brought me legal papers, not a conversation starter. I stood up and handed her the signed documents. You'll have the house to yourself by tomorrow night. Her confident expression flickered for just a moment. Where are you going to go? That's not your concern anymore. I walked to our bedroom and pulled out the duffel bag I used for work trips. 7 years of life together, and everything that mattered to me fit in one bag. Clothes, important documents, a few personal items. I left the wedding photos, the shared possessions, the life we'd built. If she wanted to discard our marriage, she could deal with the remnants. When I came back downstairs, she was standing in the living room looking uncertain. You don't have to leave tonight. We can figure out the logistics. The logistics are simple. You wanted independence, you got it. I headed for the door, duffel bag over my shoulder. Enjoy your promotion celebration. Where are you going? I paused at the door and looked back one last time. Somewhere you'll never have to worry about me being a burden again. I drove to the local hotel and checked in for the night. From my room window, I could see the lights were on at our house. Her house now. I wondered if she was already opening that bottle of champagne she'd been saving for her promotion, or if my reaction had dampened her mood. My phone buzzed with a text from her. We should talk about this properly. I turned the phone off and tossed it on the nightstand. There was nothing left to talk about. She'd made her decision when she had those papers drawn up. She'd made her decision when she decided her promotion meant she no longer needed the man who'd supported her getting there. The next morning, I called my supervisor and requested immediate transfer to our company's facility in North Carolina. 3 states away. Same job, same pay, fresh start. He approved it within hours. Apparently, experienced machine operators were needed everywhere. I spent the day handling business. Opened a new bank account in a different bank. Changed my phone number. Filed a change of address with the post office for a P.O. box in my new city. By the time I stopped by the house to get my truck and a few tools from the garage, I had essentially erased myself from her world. She wasn't home. Probably at work, reveling in her new position. I left my house keys on the kitchen counter next to a note. Congratulations on your promotion. Enjoy your independence. The drive to North Carolina took 8 hours. 8 hours to think about how quickly someone could throw away 7 years like it meant nothing. 8 hours to realize that I'd been married to someone who saw me as a stepping stone, not a partner. When I crossed the state line, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't worried about her career stress, her deadlines, her next promotion. I wasn't planning my schedule around her needs or making sacrifices for her advancement. I was free too. My phone stayed off for 3 days. When I finally turned it on in my new apartment, there were 17 missed calls and a dozen text messages. All from her. The messages started casual, asking where I was and when I was coming back. By the last few, the tone had shifted to something closer to panic. I deleted them all without reading past the previews and blocked her number. If she wanted to celebrate her independence, she could do it without any interference from me. I had my own life to rebuild. 3 weeks into my new life in North Carolina, I had established a routine that my ex-wife would never recognize. Wake up at 5:30, coffee and news, 45 minutes at the gym before work. 8 hours running CNC machines at a facility that appreciated experienced operators. Evenings were mine to do whatever I wanted. No more coordinating schedules around her networking events. No more listening to office politics over dinner. No more walking on eggshells because she had a stressful presentation the next day. The apartment I'd rented was basic but comfortable. One bedroom, decent kitchen, and most importantly, it was mine. Every decision, from what to eat for dinner to what to watch on TV, was completely my own. I'd forgotten how good that felt. Meanwhile, back in our old city, she was learning what independence actually looked like. My coworker mentioned seeing my name in the company newsletter. You used to work at the main facility, right? Some woman has been calling HR asking about you. Says she's your wife. Ex-wife, I corrected. And she'll figure out soon enough that HR doesn't give out employee information. But she was persistent. Through mutual friends, I heard she tried calling my old workplace, asking neighbors, even checking with my brother. She discovered I'd transferred, but the company wouldn't tell her where. All she knew was that I'd vanished completely. Good. By month 2, the reality of her situation was setting in. The house payment on her VP salary was manageable, but everything else hit different when you're doing it alone. Lawn maintenance, repairs, grocery shopping, cleaning. All the things I'd handled while she focused on her career were suddenly her responsibility. I heard through my brother that she'd hired a lawn service. Apparently, she'd tried to mow it herself once and gave up after an hour. The same woman who'd told me she didn't need me anymore was paying someone else to do the yard work I'd done for 7 years without being asked. Her social media told the story she wanted people to believe. Photos of her new office, captions about living my best life and thriving independently. But I noticed what was missing. No photos of her beautiful house. No pictures of home-cooked meals or weekend projects. Just work events and restaurant dinners. She was working 60-hour weeks in her new position and coming home to an empty house every night. The promotion that was supposed to set her free had become a golden cage. My phone number change had been strategic. She couldn't text or call even if she wanted to, but she found other ways to try reaching out. She sent a friend request on social media, which I ignored. She had a mutual friend reach out, asking if I was doing okay and whether we might work things out. I told the friend. She made her choice when she served me papers. I'm respecting that choice completely. The friend reported back that she was going through a rough adjustment period and maybe rushing into the divorce. Too late for that realization. By month 3, I'd started dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee dates and casual dinners. It felt strange at first, being responsible only for myself, making plans without checking someone else's schedule. But I adapted quickly. One evening, while I was having dinner with a woman I'd met at the gym, my brother called. She's been asking Mom about you, he said. Wants to know if you're okay, where you're living, if you're seeing anyone. What did Mom tell her? That if you wanted her to know those things, you'd tell her yourself. Smart woman, my mother. She also mentioned that the house feels too big for just her. Said she's thinking about getting a roommate. The same house she'd claimed as hers in the divorce. The house she'd been so proud to keep in her name. Now it was too much for her to handle alone. I finished my dinner date and drove home to my apartment, thinking about the contrast. She was rattling around in a 4-bedroom house, overwhelmed by the responsibilities and probably eating takeout most nights. I was in a 1-bedroom apartment, content and building something new. 6 months after I'd signed those papers, she made her first real attempt to track me down. She hired a private investigator. My brother called to warn me. She's getting desperate. The PI already contacted Mom, asking about your job, your habits, whether you'd moved out of state. Did you tell Mom to be careful what she says? Mom hung up on him. Said if her son wanted to be found, he wouldn't have disappeared in the first place. The PI got nowhere. I'd been thorough in my exit strategy. New bank, new phone, new address, new state. The only connection to my old life was my job, and the company protected employee information religiously. But her desperation was telling. 6 months of independence, and she was paying strangers to find the man she'd discarded. The promotion that was supposed to make her complete had left her feeling more empty than ever. I, on the other hand, was thriving. New friends, new routines, new possibilities. The manufacturing plant had offered me a supervisor position after just 4 months. Better pay, better hours, better future. None of it would have been possible if I'd stayed trapped in a marriage where I was seen as expendable. That night, I raised a beer to toast my ex-wife's independence. She'd wanted to be free of me, and she'd gotten exactly what she'd asked for. She just hadn't considered what that freedom would actually cost her. Year 1 passed like a season of recovery. I threw myself into work, earned my supervisor position, and started taking night classes in industrial management. The company was paying for it, seeing potential in someone who showed up consistently and delivered results. My social life rebuilt itself naturally. Friday night poker games with coworkers, weekend fishing trips, a few relationships that lasted a few months each. Nothing serious, but nothing lonely either. I was learning who I was without constantly accommodating someone else's career ambitions. Meanwhile, the updates about her life came sporadically through family channels. My brother mentioned she'd had to hire a property management company to handle house maintenance. She'd tried dating, but nothing stuck. The promotion that was supposed to transform her life had mostly just given her longer hours and more stress. By year 2, I'd stopped asking about her entirely. My mother stopped volunteering information. The divorce was final, the past was buried, and I was genuinely moving forward. I bought a small house with 3 acres outside the city. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I spent weekends working on it, building a workshop, fixing things because I wanted to, not because someone expected me to. My neighbor was a retired mechanic who taught me engine repair. Simple pleasures that marriage had never allowed time for. The dating became more serious in year 3. I met a kindergarten teacher named Beth who didn't care about corporate ladder climbing or networking events. She liked hiking, cooking, and having actual conversations about things other than quarterly reports. We took it slow, both of us having been burned before. Beth never asked about my ex-wife. She knew I'd been married, knew it had ended badly, and respected that some doors were better left closed. That kind of emotional intelligence was refreshing after years with someone who saw every conversation as a strategic opportunity. By year 4, I was a different person living a different life. Plant manager had offered me a pathway to operations director. Beth and I were talking about moving in together. I had savings, investments, and plans that belonged entirely to me. Then my brother called with news that broke the 4-year silence. "She's been asking about you again," he said during our monthly check-in. "But this time it's different." Different how? She's not just curious anymore. She's desperate. He explained what he'd learned through mutual friends. The VP position that was supposed to be her golden ticket had become a nightmare. Corporate restructuring meant longer hours, impossible targets, and constant pressure. She was working 70-hour weeks and barely keeping up. She told someone she made the biggest mistake of her life. My brother continued. Said she didn't realize what she had until it was gone. That's what happens when you treat people like stepping stones. There's more. She's been trying to track you down for months. She knows you're in North Carolina, but can't get specifics. She even drove down here once, hoping to find you. The idea of her desperately searching for someone she'd casually discarded for years earlier should have felt satisfying. Instead, it just felt pathetic. She asked Mom if you ever talk about her, my brother added. What did Mom say? That you talk about your future, not your past. Perfect answer. A week later, I was having dinner with Beth when my personal email account chimed with a message from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line made my blood run cold. Please just read this. I knew immediately who it was from. Everything okay? Beth asked, noticing my expression. Just work stuff. I'll handle it later. But curiosity got the better of me that night after Beth went home. I opened the email. The message was 3 pages long. A rambling confession about mistakes, loneliness, and regret. She'd found my email through some mutual connection and poured out 4 years of accumulated remorse. The house was too big. The job was consuming her life. And she'd realized that success meant nothing without someone to share it with. The email ended with a phone number and a plea to call her. Just to talk. Just to see if we could try again. I read it twice, then deleted it. But she wasn't done. The emails kept coming. One every few days, each more desperate than the last. She'd seen my LinkedIn profile, knew I was doing well, and it was driving her crazy that I'd built a good life without her. I know I hurt you. One email read. I know I made a terrible mistake. But can't people change? Can't we try again? Another one. I've been thinking about what we had for 4 years. I threw away the best thing in my life for a job that's killing me. I saved them all in a folder, but never responded. Beth noticed I'd become distracted and asked if something was wrong. I told her about the emails, And her response was exactly what I needed to hear. She had you for 7 years and decided you weren't good enough, Beth said simply. Now that she's figured out what she lost, she wants you back. That's not love, that's panic. Smart woman. The emails continued for 2 months. Sometimes apologetic, sometimes angry, sometimes desperate. She threatened to come to North Carolina to find me. She promised she'd changed. She offered to leave her job and start over somewhere new with me. All the things she could have chosen 4 years earlier, before serving me with papers. I never responded to a single message. Then, one day, the email stopped. For 3 weeks, silence. I thought maybe she'd finally gotten the message. Maybe she'd accepted that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I was wrong. My phone started ringing. The phone call started at 7 in the morning on a Tuesday. My number had been private for 4 years, but somehow she'd found it. I let it go to voicemail. Then it rang again. And again. Beth was making coffee when I finally checked the caller ID. Unknown number, but I had a sinking feeling I knew exactly who it was. You going to answer that? She asked as the phone rang for the 4th time in 10 minutes. No point. If it's important, they'll leave a message. But the calls kept coming. Every hour, sometimes twice an hour. Always from different numbers. She was using various phones, probably calling from work, from friends' phones, from random numbers she could access. After the 15th call that day, I finally listened to the voicemails. Please just pick up. I know you're getting these calls. I just want to talk. I found your number through the company directory. I know you work at the North Carolina facility now. I know you're doing well. Why won't you just answer? After 7 years of marriage, don't I deserve at least a conversation? The entitlement in that last message almost made me laugh. She destroyed our marriage with legal papers, and now she thought she deserved my time. Beth heard the frustration in my voice when I told her about the calls. Change your number again, she suggested. I shouldn't have to. I changed it once to get away from her. Now she tracks me down 4 years later like some kind of stalker. But she was just getting started. My supervisor pulled me aside at work the next day. Someone's been calling the main office asking about you. Says she's your ex-wife, and there's a family emergency. There's no emergency. She's trying to force contact because I won't take her calls. Company policy is we don't give out personal information, but she's persistent. Called 6 times yesterday. She was making my professional life complicated now. The same woman who'd told me she didn't need me anymore was now interfering with the career I'd built without her. The calls escalated over the next week. Sometimes she cried into the voicemail. Sometimes she got angry and demanded I stop being childish. Sometimes she tried bargaining, promising things would be different if we tried again. I've been in therapy, one message claimed. I understand now what I put you through. I've changed. The house feels empty without you. I eat takeout every night because I never learned to cook the way you did. I see couples everywhere and remember what we had. I threw it away for nothing. Each message revealed more about how her perfect, independent life had crumbled. The VP position was everything she'd wanted except fulfilling. She worked constantly, had no real friends anymore, and spent weekends alone in a house too big for one person. But the message that really showed her desperation came 2 weeks into the phone campaign. I hired another private investigator. A better one this time. I know where you live. I know about your house, your girlfriend, your job promotion. I know you've built a good life, and I know I could make it better if you'd just let me try. She was having me surveilled. For years after discarding me, she was paying strangers to watch my life from a distance. That night, I called my brother. She's completely lost it, I told him. She's having me followed by private investigators. Maybe it's time to get a restraining order. Maybe it's time to answer one of her calls and end this permanently. Beth overheard the conversation. You don't owe her anything. Not a phone call, not an explanation, not closure. She made her choice. But the harassment was affecting both our lives now. Beth couldn't come over without wondering if someone was watching. I couldn't focus at work knowing my ex-wife was paying people to document my routine. The final straw came when she showed up at my workplace. I was coming back from lunch when my supervisor flagged me down. There's a woman in the parking lot asking employees about you. Says she's your wife, ex-wife, and she needs to leave. Security already talked to her. She's sitting in a car across the street now. I looked out the window and saw her BMW parked where she could watch the employee entrance. For years after I'd walked away, she was camped outside my job like some kind of obsessed teenager. That afternoon, she followed me home. I drove carefully, taking my normal route, not acknowledging the car behind me. But when I pulled into my driveway, She parked on the street and got out. For years had changed her. The confident corporate executive who'd served me divorce papers looked exhausted. Expensive clothes couldn't hide the weight loss, the stress lines, or the desperation in her eyes. She started walking toward my front door. Beth's car was in the driveway too. She'd beaten me home from her teaching job and was probably inside grading papers, unaware that my past was about to confront my present. This was it. For years of silence, months of harassment, and now she was forcing the confrontation I'd been avoiding. I got out of my truck and met her halfway across the yard. "You need to leave," I said calmly. "I just want to talk. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. You had 7 years to talk. You chose legal papers instead. I made a mistake. Can't people make mistakes?" "They can, but they live with the consequences." She looked toward the house, where Beth's silhouette was visible through the kitchen window. "Is she why you won't give me a chance?" "No, you're why I won't give you a chance. I've changed. I'm not the same person who hurt you." I studied her face, looking for any trace of the woman I'd once loved. All I saw was someone who'd finally run out of other options. "Maybe you have changed, but I have too. And the person I am now knows better than to trust someone who throws people away when they think they've found something better." Her composure finally cracked. I was scared. The promotion, the money, the independence, it made me feel powerful for the first time in my life. I thought I didn't need anyone. "You were right. You didn't need me. You made that very clear. But I want you. Isn't that enough?" "No, it's not." She stood there for a moment, realizing that 4 years of building toward this conversation had led to a dead end. "So that's it. You won't even consider trying again." "I signed your papers 4 years ago. That was me trying to respect your decision and move on with my life. I didn't think you'd actually stay gone. That's the problem. You thought you could have it both ways." Beth appeared at the front door, probably wondering why I was having an intense conversation with a stranger in our driveway. "I should go," I said, "and you should stop calling, stop following me, and stop making this harder than it needs to be. This isn't over." "Yes, it is." I walked toward my house, toward Beth, toward the life I'd built without her. Behind me, I heard her car door slam and her BMW drive away, but I had a feeling she wasn't done yet. After the driveway confrontation, I thought maybe she'd finally gotten the message. For 3 days, my phone was blissfully quiet. Beth and I had dinner without interruption, watched movies without my phone buzzing every hour, and started to believe the harassment might be over. We were wrong. On Thursday morning, I woke up to find my voicemail box completely full. The notification said I had 99 new messages, all from the previous night. "What the hell?" I muttered, grabbing my coffee and sitting down to see what kind of breakdown I'd missed. Beth looked over from where she was packing her teaching supplies. More calls. 99 voicemails. She must have called all night. The messages started around midnight and continued until 4 in the morning. At first, they were relatively coherent. "I know you don't want to talk to me, but I can't stop thinking about our conversation. I keep replaying what you said about throwing people away, and you're right. I did throw you away, but I want to fix it." By message 20, the tone had shifted. "I drove by your old apartment complex today, the one where you lived when we first met. Do you remember how happy we were then? Before everything got complicated." Message 40 was where things got concerning. "I quit my job today, the VP position that I chose over you. I walked into my boss's office and resigned. If that job was what came between us, then it's gone now." I paused the playback and stared at my phone. She'd quit the job she'd destroyed our marriage to get. The promotion that was supposed to set her free had become so meaningless that she'd thrown it away too. Beth was listening from the kitchen. She quit her job? Apparently. Keep listening, it gets worse. Message 60 showed the real depth of her spiral. "I'm sitting in the parking lot of our old grocery store, the one where we used to shop together every Saturday morning. I bought groceries for one person tonight, and I couldn't stop crying in the cereal aisle. The clerk asked if I was okay, and I almost told him about you." By message 80, she was barely coherent. "I know you have someone new. I saw her through your kitchen window. She's pretty. She probably doesn't demand you work overtime to pay for her ambitions. She probably appreciates what she has." The final messages, recorded around 4 in the morning, were just sobbing and fragments of sentences. "I can't sleep. Haven't slept properly in months. Keep dreaming about the day I gave you those papers, your face when you signed them. I thought you'd fight for us." I deleted the entire batch and blocked the number she'd been calling from. But she wasn't done. Over the next 2 weeks, the voicemails kept coming from different numbers. Work phones, friends' phones, prepaid cells. She was determined to fill my voicemail box with her regret. Some messages were angry. You're being cruel. I know you're listening to these. I know you could forgive me if you wanted to. You're choosing to hold this grudge because it makes you feel powerful. Some were bargaining. I'll move to North Carolina. I'll get a job there, a small apartment. I won't interfere with your life. I just want to be in the same city again. Maybe we could start over as friends. Some were just pathetic. I hired a dating coach. She said I need to learn how to be vulnerable again. She said I built walls after our divorce to protect myself from feeling the way you made me feel when you left. I started keeping account. After 3 weeks, I was up to 150 voicemails across various numbers. Beth suggested I change my number again, but I was curious to see how far she'd take this. The answer came on a Friday evening when I got home from work to find 203 voicemails waiting for me. 200, I told Beth, showing her my phone. She left 200 voicemails. That's not romantic persistence. That's stalking. I scrolled through the timestamps. She'd been calling every 15 minutes for hours, leaving message after message like some kind of broken robot. Let's listen to a few, I said, settling onto the couch with Beth. I want you to hear what 4 years of independence actually bought her. We started with message number 50, where she was explaining how empty her house felt. I moved into the guest bedroom because our old bedroom feels like a crime scene. I can't look at that bed without remembering how I told you I didn't need you anymore. I sleep on a twin mattress now like I'm in college again. Message 100 was recorded from what sounded like a restaurant. I'm having dinner alone again. There's a couple at the next table, and they're arguing about something stupid. But at least they're arguing together. I don't even have anyone to fight with anymore. Message 150 showed she'd been drinking. I called your brother tonight. He hung up on me. Your mother won't take my calls either. I've been erased from your family like I never existed. 7 years of Christmas dinners and birthday parties, and now I'm nobody to them. But it was message 190 that really showed how far she'd fallen. I went to therapy today and told Dr. Rodriguez about you. She asked me to describe what I lost, and I couldn't stop talking for an hour. She said I'm grieving the life I chose not to have. She said some mistakes are too big to fix. Beth muted the phone and looked at me. This is actually sad. She's completely broken. She broke herself. I didn't do this to her. I know that. But listening to someone's mental breakdown feels wrong, even if they brought it on themselves. The final few messages were recorded around 3 in the morning and were barely audible. I know you won't call me back. I know this is pointless, but I had to try. I had to let you know that losing you was the worst thing that ever happened to me. If I could go back to that day, if I could take back those papers, I would choose you every time. I would choose us. The last message was just 10 seconds of crying followed by silence. I set the phone down and looked at Beth. 200 voicemails over 3 weeks. That's what happens when someone realizes they threw away the best thing in their life for a job title. Are you going to respond? Why would I? What's left to say? Maybe telling her to stop would end this. No, responding would just encourage her. She'd take any contact as hope that she could wear me down eventually. But even I was surprised by what came next. My phone rang, and for the first time in 4 years, I recognized the number immediately. It was our old home phone, the landline in the house she'd kept in the divorce. I stared at the screen as it rang. Answer it, Beth said quietly. End this permanently. I picked up on the 4th ring. Hello. You answered. Her voice was barely a whisper. I can't believe you actually answered. I'm answering to tell you this stops now. The calls, the voicemails, the following me around. All of it stops. I just need you to know that I understand now. I understand what I did to you, what I threw away, why you hate me. I don't hate you. I nothing you. You're a stranger who used to be married to someone I used to be. The line was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. I love you, she finally whispered. No, you don't. You love the idea of not being alone. There's a difference. That's not true. It is true. And this conversation is over. I hung up and immediately blocked the home number. Beth was watching me with concern. How do you feel? Relieved. That was probably the last time I'll ever talk to her. But I was wrong about that too. 2 months after the phone call, she showed up at my front door on a Saturday morning. Not calling first, not asking permission. Just there, standing on my porch like she belonged. Beth was at her school working on lesson plans, so I was alone when the doorbell rang. Through the window, I could see her car parked in my driveway again. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. I drove 12 hours to get here, she said. I'm not leaving until we talk properly. We talked. You called 200 times to make sure of it. Face to face. Like adults. She looked worse than she had 2 months ago. Thinner, more desperate, like someone hanging onto the edge of a cliff. 5 minutes, I said. Then you leave and never come back. Thank you. We sat on my front porch. My house, my rules, my territory. I sold the house, she said. Our house. I couldn't live there anymore knowing you'd never come home to it. Good for you. I've been staying with my sister while I figure out what's next. She thinks I'm having a breakdown. Are you? Probably. But at least I'm finally being honest about what I want. Which is what? You. Us. Another chance to not screw up the best thing that ever happened to me. I looked at this woman who'd once confidently handed me divorce papers and now sat begging for scraps of the life she'd thrown away. You didn't screw up the best thing that happened to you, I said. You chose not to want it anymore. There's a difference. I was wrong. No, you were honest. For the first time in probably years, you told me exactly how you felt about our marriage. You didn't need me, and you didn't want me around anymore. But I've changed. So have I. I've learned that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them the first time. She was quiet for a moment, maybe finally understanding that her campaign of desperation had only proven my point. So there's nothing I can do? Nothing I can say. You can accept that some doors, once closed, don't reopen. You can stop trying to force your way back into a life you voluntarily left. What about forgiveness? I forgave you 4 years ago when I signed those papers without a fight. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean giving someone another chance to hurt you. I would never hurt you again. You hurt me when you called my workplace. You hurt me when you followed me home. You hurt me when you left 200 voicemails like some kind of stalker. You're still hurting me by refusing to accept that we're over. She started crying then, but it wasn't the manipulative tears I remembered from our marriage. This was genuine grief for something she'd finally realized was gone forever. I threw away 7 years for a job that made me miserable, she sobbed. I gave up the only person who ever really loved me for a promotion that meant nothing. Then you learned an expensive lesson about priorities. I can't undo it, can I? No, you can't. Beth's car pulled into the driveway then. She got out slowly, recognizing the BMW and understanding immediately what was happening. Is this her? My ex-wife asked. That's Beth, and she's everything you weren't. What do you mean? She doesn't see me as a stepping stone. She doesn't take what I offer for granted. She doesn't think independence means discarding the people who care about you. Beth walked up to the porch, but didn't interrupt. She could see this was something I needed to finish. I should go, my ex-wife said, standing up. Yes, you should. And this time, stay gone. She walked to her car without looking back. As she drove away, Beth sat down next to me. How do you feel? She asked. Free. Finally free. Think she'll try again? No. She finally heard what she needed to hear. Some mistakes don't get fixed. Beth took my hand. Good. Because I'm not sharing you with someone else's regret. I watched the BMW disappear around the corner and felt something I hadn't experienced in 4 years. Complete peace. The woman who'd once told me she didn't need me anymore had spent months proving just how wrong she'd been. But it was too late for her and too early for me to care. I had everything I needed right here.
아니 심지어 저기 시흥만 가도 시흥만 가도요 존나 커 원룸이 시흥만 가도 시흥만 가도 원룸이 크거든. 무보증 있냐고? 무보증은 없을 것 같은데 무보증은 없고 그래도 한 50에서 100만 원은 줘야 되지 않을까요? 50에서 100만 원은 줘야 좀 들어가지 않을까 싶어. 뭐 일단 최대한 뭐 맞춰서 가야지 뭐. 안 되면은 뭐 어쩔 수 있나 뭐 최대한 맞춰서 가야지. 일단 그래서 이사는 아마 6월 중순이나 말쯤. 애지형 어서 와요. 6월 중순이나 말쯤으로 갈 것 같아. 어디로 가냐고? 뭘 어디로 가? 부천에 있을 건데. 이사는 부천에 있을 거예요. 부천에 있을 거고 일단은 좀 생각을 해보려고. 어떻게 좀 그러니까 일단 보증금이 적은 데를 가야 돼. 보니까 무조건 보증금 50인 데로 가고 뭘 모르냐고라고 물어보는데 내가 뭔 말을 했는데 대체 쿠라니트 저 새끼는 뭐 이상한 거에 맨날 꽂히냐. 예, 보증금 한 50에 한 월세 한 40 이렇게 가지고 좀 구해보려고. 예, 그러면서 이제 방송하면서 천천히 좀, 예, 올리면 좋지 않을까, 예, 싶네요. 예, 뭐, 원래 그렇잖아. 예, 사람이 시작이 작은 단칸방부터 시작하는 거지. 처음부터 막 큰 데서 하려고 한 게 내가 욕심이야. 예, 맞잖아요. 예. 원래 전부 다 그, 원룸부터 시작하잖아.